Hi everyone. In this week's reconnect series, product series, I have Tejas with me. Tejas used to be part of my team at Capital Float, but prior to Capital Float, Tejas used to work at Practo. I think he started his career there. He worked with me for about a year and a half. I remember him building some of the acquisition strategies and growth strategies at Capital Float, working on the DSA module, etc. Uh, I think after a year and a half, they just came and told me that, UT, I want to quit. I want to go start something on my own. And I think for 4 years, 4.5 years now, since we actually reconnected, uh, you've been working in the mental health space, and you spoke to me about that idea even at that point of time, right? I want to do something for sleep. I want to do something for improving people's uh, you know health beyond what we think about health as, right? Mind, body, uh, resilience, all of that you spoke to me about. But I want to know, till where did this journey come about? I know you started Atmana about a year and a half back, but your journey started 4.5 years ago. I know your YC, uh, Y Combinator startup, uh, I think batch 21, was that correct?
Yes, S21. Yeah.
S21. So I will leave the stage to you. They just talk to us about your journey, what you're trying to do, what you're building. Very curious to know what you're doing.
Sure. Awesome,
Mm.
awesome. Cool. First of all, thanks so much, Yudi, for
Mm.
thinking of me and having me on this series, right? So, because it's product series, I'll talk more from the product angle, right? So basically, I always wanted to, I used to have a lot of ideas. Like
Mm.
I used to keep writing down different ideas, right? Like I want to build this kind of app, that kind of app. This is
Yeah.
a problem that I want to be solved, right? So that is where there was always an idea, and then that's it. Like nothing used to happen. It would never
Yeah.
materialize, right? When I was in Practo, basically I was doing SEO, like
Mm.
helping them get more organic traffic, all of that.
Yeah.
So accidentally, the growth was never coming because whatever features I used to suggest, the product
Yeah.
managers would never pick them up
Sure.
because they have their own OKRs and priorities, right? So, so basically, I kind of had to hustle and push people and convince people, all of that. Finally, I
Mm.
got myself one dedicated engineer. Like whatever I used to take, he was ready to do. Like the
Mm.
company gave me that, right?
Sure.
So then that is when this magic started happening, where I started getting the feeling that okay, now I have someone who can actually implement and bring my ideas to materialization.
Sure.
So within a few months, the company started seeing that the traffic started picking up and the
Mm.
idea started working, and they started giving me more and more engineers, right?
Sure.
So that's how accidentally I got into the product side of things, right? And
Nice.
they were actually looking for a product person, but
Mm-hmm.
meanwhile, until they found someone, they just said like, okay, you started, you just handle things. So that's how
Yeah.
I accidentally got into it.
Mm-hmm.
But somehow, like if I connect the dots now, I always used to enjoy this, coming up with ideas, getting the idea actually to actually be
Fruition.
launched.
Yeah.
Correct. And then once it's launched, measuring the impact and looking at the what worked, what didn't work, and iterating all that. So this flow was really something that I really enjoyed. So that's how I,
Yeah.
then I when I moved to Capital Float, it was a proper product work. It at Practo, it was like a hybrid, you can say, growth and product. So I
Yeah.
chose Capital Float for that reason because I wanted to do like a proper product role, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So that's how it went on. And then when I moved on to start my own thing, right? Even
Mm.
then, it was more about ideas and actually launching the product and helping people out with certain problems, right?
Yeah.
So that was the journey. And
Mm.
once I started on my own, I built a
Yeah.
bunch of apps.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that I was lacking was the ability to code, right?
Okay.
So I didn't get a co-founder when I started.
Mm-hmm.
So that forced me to actually also learn coding, right?
Nice.
And
Mm.
first few months it was about learning coding and building out a few apps, right? And
Yeah.
I didn't start out as mental health, right?
Mm.
It was mainly about what are the apps that I would want for myself to get
Sure.
better. right?
Yeah.
So first thing was I was finding it difficult to wake up early in the morning. So
Yeah.
I built a gamified alarm app. That was my
I
first
remember
thing,
that. Yeah. Yeah.
right? So that
Yeah.
was the first thing.
Mm.
Then I built an app to go to the gym regularly. So these are
Mm.
all like a bunch of apps that will help me to develop healthy habits, right?
Mm. And
So that
discipline.
was the sorry.
Discipline and consistency.
Correct. Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. So that was the original thought, and I
Mm.
built a bunch of apps on this. So my first four apps failed, and it took about 2.5 years of a lot of iterations, speaking to users, figuring out what
Mm.
worked, what didn't work. So I would say it was not fully me thinking about what to work on, but rather the users pointing me in the right direction by giving me
Sure.
feedback, right?
Yeah.
So after several years, something started working, and that's when uh, basically we created Atmana, right?
Mm.
So that part was basically it's like a part of mental health. It's like a first step
Mm.
towards mental health, right?
Sure.
So at Atmana, what we're doing is we are helping youngsters, 15 to
Mm-hmm.
30-year-olds,
Okay.
to cut down on their screen time,
Sure.
right? So what has happened these days is that, especially post COVID, we are
Mm.
spending too much time on our devices, even for work or even for other things like entertainment. We are
Mm.
just spending like a lot of time, right?
I think
So
you need to extend it to 40-year-olds also.
right,
Sorry.
right. And we wanted to have a specific target segment so that it's clear to everyone in the team, what
Sure.
kind of a user are we building for, right? But we do have users who are above 30, above 40, all of that,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
So at Atmana, the thing that we are trying to do is helping youngsters to strike a balance with
Mm-hmm.
between the time that they spend on these technology products, be
Sure.
it social media or gaming or just browsing apps or browsing the internet, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we help them strike a balance between this and other things of their life
Mm-hmm.
which are important, right?
Sure.
So right now it's more like the youngster doesn't have much of a control because
Mm.
these companies have big smart people, big teams
Yeah.
of smart people who are all optimizing so that we
Mm.
spend more and more time, we get hooked
Correct.
onto their
Yeah.
particular platform, right?
Yeah.
So these youngsters are kind of like it's like they are fighting a battle where they don't have much leverage, right? So
Sure.
all these people are like experts in how to get us hooked onto things, and the youngsters are
Absolutely.
like falling prey to that, right?
It's
So we wanted
human
to
psyche.
correct. Yes.
Yeah.
I
Mm.
mean, we are all vulnerable to certain things, and especially at a young age. And
Sure.
so that's how we, get hooked, get addicted to things.
Mm.
So I just wanted to, me and my team wanted to build some things to kind of balance the things in
Mm.
the favor of the youngsters,
Sure.
right? So that we use technology to actually help them strike this balance to cut down the screen time and basically get back that control so that they
Yeah.
decide how much to use, how much is beneficial for me, and
Sure.
beyond what point should I kind of stop and do other things, right?
Very interesting. Can I ask you a question here? Like most
Sure.
phones today have a setting called work-life balance,
Hmm. Yes,
right?
yes.
How is that different from installing your app and then finding the work-life balance for an individual?
Sure, sure, sure. I think this is one of the questions that most people ask me.
Sure.
So see, if you look at all these settings, be it screen time or digital well-being, all that,
Yeah.
they've been there, but at least when I speak to all my users and people, the usage has not changed,
Yeah.
right? We still spend a lot of time on our devices. Maybe we
Yeah.
know more data that I'm spending these many hours, or
Sure.
this app is what I'm spending the most time on. We're getting stats, but the behavior is not changing, right? Because it's very hard. It's built such that it's very addictive, right?
True.
I think that is the difficult part. So
Mhm.
like some solution is required to help people to actually cut down, to actually see the results, right?
Sure.
So
Yeah.
that's where we step in, and the way we've designed our apps is from the point of view of someone who is addicted, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll tell you a few aspects that we have focused on, which makes us
Sure.
different from the settings that are already there. One aspect is
Mm-hmm.
the willpower, right?
Sure.
So like we all have very limited willpower, and
Mm.
especially someone who is hooked onto something is
Mm.
generally low on willpower, and they just give away. Like let's say they have a goal of using their phone for 2 hours per day, but
Sure.
when actually the 2 hours passes, it's very
Mm.
hard to resist and actually stop, right?
Yeah.
So we have certain controls, certain things that we do to kind of persuade and push the person to actually stick to their goals, right?
Sure.
uh,
Mm.
when at times when the willpower fails, right?
Sure.
So that is one such thing. We have many other things, like we have I'll just touch upon one more thing, which is we have this thing called as a buddy system. So
Sure.
so basically, if I have a goal, if I don't tell anyone about it, I may not
Mm.
stick to it, right?
Mm.
If I tell a friend of mine, then
Yeah.
like I don't want to look like a loser, right? So
Mm.
I'll try my best to
Mm.
to achieve the goal, right? So
Mm.
that is where this buddy system comes in, where we have this peer pressure kind of a thing, right? Where
Yeah.
your friend will kind of, he'll get reports on what you're doing, he'll get
Mm.
reports on how much time you're spending, how are you doing on your goals, right?
Got it.
So that will kind of push the person to actually move towards reaching the goal,
Good.
right?
Interesting.
So yeah, these are some things how we are different.
Interesting. What you need to do is find the addiction to your app, because this will be a good addiction.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully a good addiction
Yeah.
rather than a negative addiction.
Correct. I think the psyche is where you'll probably have to understand human behavior here a little bit more and
Right.
find ways to go a little bit deeper here.
Hmm, hmm. Correct.
I want to understand. Okay, now I understood your journey so far, but why have you picked this space? What prompted you with all the ideas that you've written down? Why were you so passionate about this entire space? I know you said that you wanted to do it for yourself in terms of going to the gym or sleeping better, etc. But why go deeper in terms of a startup idea?
Right, right.
Mm.
Um, so basically, there's two things. So
Mm.
I'll tell you the short term and the long term, right?
Sure.
The short term motivation was always to kind of solve problems that
Mm-hmm.
I know for myself that the problem exists and it's an important problem, and no one else
Mm-hmm.
is solving. Actually, that was
Yeah.
more important to me. I didn't want to like go and compete with 10 other people, right? So that is like very first of all, it's very hard to compete, and second
Yeah.
of all, it's like the problem will get solved anyway. If 10
Correct.
smart startups are working on a problem,
Mm.
someone will eventually figure it out, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to solve problems where not many people are even looking at it, right? So
Right.
that if I spend time and effort, if me and my team spend time and effort, the
Yeah.
chances of that problem getting solved are higher, right?
Mm. Sure.
Problem getting solved for the world, irrespective
Sure.
of whether we win or not, right?
Mm.
So that was the that has always been kind of my approach, right?
Mm.
So so short term perspective, I always used to spend that I always used to feel that I'm spending too much time on
Sure.
device, right? So
Mm.
it's like I used to browse YouTube and Reddit and a lot of things both on my
Mm.
phone and on my laptop,
Sure.
and that was preventing me from from
Mm.
doing better work, right, and being
Mm.
more productive, right? So that was kind of the starting point, right? uh, so that's the reason I chose to work on this, right?
Sure.
And also one, so this was the internal validation.
Mm.
The external validation was I wanted one starting point, like
Yeah.
what kind of addiction or what kind of issue to go after, right?
Sure.
So then I found out about a group on Reddit called NoFap, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is a group of people who are trying to overcome porn and masturbation addiction,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
It's a very taboo or a sensitive kind of a thing.
But it's how human is normal, right? It's
It's natural, but
yeah.
the existence of this group kind of
Sure.
told me that it's a problem, but no
Mm.
one can talk about it in their social circles,
Got it.
right? It's a
Mm.
very embarrassing thing for guys, right? So
Sure.
that's why they are coming online and they're using Reddit, because Reddit is anonymous. They're not using Twitter because Twitter has mostly real identity. They're using Reddit,
Sure.
right? So that shows that the problem exists, right? But like they want to do it anonymously, right?
Mm.
So that was the kind of the external validation that
Mm.
this technology addiction is
Mm.
actually impacting lakhs of people, right?
Sure.
This group had about 7-8 lakh people when I
Wow.
looked at it, right?
Mm,
So that's how kind of I got into it. We started with a porn blocking app. Now it has
mm,
evolved into multiple things, like it can block
sure.
social media, ads, gaming, a
Mm,
lot of things, right?
got
Now
it.
it's a technology, like technology de-addiction, or a app to
Nice.
reduce your screen time overall, right?
Nice.
So that's the short term thing, right? So the
Mm,
long term aspect of why am I passionate about this, right?
yeah.
That's because I think we've spoken quite a few
Mm,
times earlier as well about mental health, right?
yeah.
So I feel that all these technology addiction, all of this is kind of impacting our mental health, right?
Sure.
So there is already like some early studies that are
Mm,
pointing out to issues of depression, anxiety among people who use a lot of social media,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it's, and many things like gaming addiction has been declared as a
Mm,
disorder by
mm,
China, and
yeah.
it is about to be added to the DSF, which is basically a module of all the psychological
Mm,
ailments and issues,
sure.
right? So this is all kind of getting recognized, but we are too early, right?
Yeah.
So these excessive use of technology does impact the mental health. That is one
Mm,
aspect of it. Secondly, down the line, we want to be a platform that will help people with various kinds of mental health issues,
yeah.
right? We have
Got it.
started with technology addiction because that is kind of relatable to the current situation, and
Sure.
no one else is solving it. But
Yeah.
I look at it as a first step, and eventually we want to be a platform where people can get help on their, any kind of mental health issue, be it depression or anxiety or stress.
Got it. Mm,
Yeah, so that's the long-term goal and motivation for me. I really am passionate about making mental health accessible to everyone in the world,
very
right?
nice.
So,
Mm.
so that's the long-term drive for me to keep going.
So Tejas, I know you've been at it for about a year and a half. Any numbers that you can talk to us about as of now that you can reveal, or I'd love to know what's the traction that you've got so far.
Sure, 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 sure. I mean, some
Mm,
of the things are already revealed in my social media handles, so
yes.
I can anyway reveal them, right? So
Yeah.
basically, total installs for our apps till date is about 3 million, right?
Oh,
Android,
wow.
iOS, and all the apps put together,
Mm,
right? And we have 2 lakh monthly active users, right? And we have about we've crossed $1 million ARR.
yeah. I see that on your LinkedIn handle itself.
Yes, that's a way to kind of attract people
Sure,
to
sure.
kind of take us seriously, because there's like thousands of startups, right?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, let's come to this aspect now. Being a founder, building a startup, I know I've not been on that journey, but kudos to you that you've gone down this path. There's so many problem statements that you'll have to look at every single day, right? From product to hiring people to growth of the company to branding of the company. You can name it. It is there. It is there on your plate, right? Maybe let's first talk about talent. How are you attracting talent to this particular startups ecosystem when everyone's talking fintechs to insurtechs to whatever techs that come about, like maybe food tech, etc. Right now, how do you attract talent towards health tech, right,
Sure,
or mind
sure.
tech? I don't know what you call yourself.
I mean, as of now, we just want to stay in the current thing that we are solving. So we just say
Mm,
like, we are solving technology addiction. That's what
mm,
we focus more on, right?
mm,
So in terms of how we attract talent, right? I mean, it's quite difficult, to be
mm,
honest,
mm.
to attract really smart people, because there's a lack of such people, I feel,
Yeah,
uh, and there's so much opportunities available, right? There's so
yeah,
many
yeah.
startups, so many interesting problems that are getting solved, right?
Mm,
So I've been thinking about this for the last few months, and
yeah,
basically we don't focus on the usual things like CTC and all of that, right?
yeah,
we
yeah.
we want to focus on things that really kind of
Matter.
help people in their career, yeah, matter a lot in their career,
Sure.
right? Which is need not be always a CTC part, right?
Mm,
So especially when someone is young, the more important thing is to maximize the learnings, and
mm,
uh, like get the exposure to work on different kinds of things, right? So those are the things that we focus on, right?
Yeah.
So the first thing I want to talk about is opportunities, right? So our goal is to build world class products, right?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And because of that, each person in our team gets
Mm-hmm.
exposure to understand and work on the things that are required to make a world class product, right?
Mm-hmm.
End to end, from the ideation till till going live with a feature, and once it's live, to look at feedback, to look at data, to see how that feature is actually panning out, and
Mm-hmm.
tweaking it and making changes, right? So we have this opportunity
Mm-hmm.
to look at the end-to-end aspect of a development, which is
Yeah.
not the case in a bigger team where
Yeah.
each person has a specialized role and they only focus on that. And
Correct.
each person is working on a very small part of a product, right?
Yeah.
So the advantage that we have for someone
Mm-hmm.
joining our team is that they get this end-to-end exposure, and they get this opportunity to build things, and
Mm-hmm.
to be given this given this opportunity to take more responsibilities and work on meaningful things, right?
Got it.
Generally, uh, in different companies, and especially bigger companies,
Yeah.
the important things are generally given to people who are more experienced and who have
Sure.
done this a lot of times before and things like that.
Yeah.
But as a startup at our current stage,
Mm-hmm.
we are able to give these opportunities to people who may not have done it in the past, who may not have the all the required skills, right? So we
Yeah.
kind of, it's a win-win. So we bet on them to kind of figure it out, like learn
Mm.
the skills, learn the experience as they
Sure.
keep working on it, right? I think that's a great opportunity for someone to excel and grow in their career.
Yeah.
Right? So a
Can we
couple of people, sure.
sorry? Can you understand a little bit more in terms of what is this? What is the market size for this space? How big is the space? Probably some international competitors. So anyone who's interested to look up Atmana, they could
Mhm.
also look up why this could potentially be the next big space, right? And be part of this journey very early on.
Correct, correct.
Yeah.
Sure, sure, got it. So we do a bunch of things, right? So there is
Yeah.
competition on each of those things. For example, we have a porn blocker. So there is
Mm.
a porn adult content blocker that
Yeah.
has a bunch of competitors. We have ad blocker, social
Mm.
media blocker, a lot of things. Some of it actually other competitors don't have, but
Mm.
most of them do have competitors, right? And
Sure.
their revenues are like multiples of ours. We are
Mm.
very very small. We're like a small
Sure.
fish compared to
Mm.
the size of their businesses, right? It's in
Sure.
tens of millions of dollars, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't estimate a proper market size for this because it's very small right now, and
Sure.
the growth rate is much higher than the current
Yes. Mm.
size of the market. So the important thing is not the current size of the market, but the way in which it is growing, right?
Fair.
And the
Mm.
way when we look at our numbers, we see the revenue growth and the user growth that shows us
Mm.
the potential that is
Sure.
there. Right? So it is similar to like any new market. Right? Let's say if I was building iOS apps in
Mhm.
2009,
Yeah.
2009, not many people had iPhones, right?
Yeah.
So it may look like it's a very niche market. So why am I even building those iPhone apps, right?
Yeah.
But now, if you look at it, some of the earliest iPhone apps, be it
Mm.
WhatsApp and things like that, they are all huge with with
Yeah.
millions, hundreds of millions of users, right?
Yeah.
So that was because the market of iPhone users kept on growing
Mm.
at an exponential pace, right?
Yeah.
I think something similar is the case here, because one, the awareness is increasing. People
Yeah.
do understand the negative effects of too much screen time and too much using of
Sure.
technology, right?
Sure.
As awareness increases, as more and more studies come out that show the
Yeah.
negative impact, the market
Mm.
will keep growing, right?
Yeah.
And we are also doing our part. We put a lot of content to help
Yes.
people become
Exactly.
aware of the problem, right?
Yeah.
I think as awareness grows, this the market size will grow
I'm
exponentially.
sure. I'm sure. Are you building, one question I have for you is, are you building specifically for India, or is this a product that's across the globe? Is there a global play here? And second part to the question is, how is it different building product for India?
Right, right, sure.
Mm.
So from day one, it was always a global product, right?
Sure.
The advantage was that we were building Android apps, iOS apps, right? And because of that, it gives this uh, international distribution by default, right?
Mm.
So because we had such a easy way to distribute, we were
Yeah.
like always available in all the countries from day one, right? That was
Mm.
the case. And in terms of the users, also we see that 80% of the users are actually outside of India,
Oh,
right?
nice. Mm.
And 95%, more than 95% of our revenues come from outside of India.
Sure.
So it's a truly global product, right?
Mm.
But we do have a lot of experience of building the product, like getting Indian users, getting them to
Sure.
pay, and all of that. So because 20% of our users are still from coming from India, right?
Sure.
So it is the uh, topmost country in terms of number of users, right?
Sure.
So in terms of building for India, I think the biggest problem is in general in India is the disposable income of people, right?
Yeah.
Right. So because we are still I mean, we are
Low.
still developing, and the
Yeah.
per capita income is still very low. The
Yes.
disposable income is not high. I think that is the biggest problem.
Sure.
That is kind of preventing India to from moving to the next level. I think
Sure.
we need a lot of wealth creators, more jobs, more high
Mm.
paying jobs, all of that. I
Yeah.
think if that per capita income can go up, I think lot many startups, lot many things, lot many
Mm.
problems of life can be solved. If a
Yeah.
startup realizes, I can make enough money to sustain this,
Yeah.
I'm sure lot many problems, day-to-day problems will get solved. Right? So that's the
Yeah.
first part that I feel is important, which
Sure.
is why our the revenue component from India is still low. Right?
Yeah.
The second thing is the tendency to pay, especially for
Mm.
apps.
Yeah.
We have seen exceptions here and there, like Healthify Me, if you are there, where people are ending up paying, but
Mm.
it's really hard, right?
Mm.
And the value proposition has to be upfront. Like if a
Yeah.
user is paying for a Netflix or
Mm.
Prime or something like that, they know the upfront benefit that I can get the entertainment, I can use it
Yeah.
for X hours and all of that, right?
Yeah.
I get access to these many movies and all of that. The problem with apps like us is the person benefits, but it's not upfront and it requires
Mm.
effort, right?
Yeah.
The person will have to actually put effort to to cut down the screen time and actually for their life to improve. So because
Mm.
of this, it is like kind of it has been a challenge to get users to actually pay, right? They
Mm.
do use the product, they use the free version, but
Yeah.
getting them to pay has been a challenge, and I'm sure that will be the case for most of the apps and
Absolutely.
most of the startups.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh, very curious to understand from you now, what is, you know, your growth plans? How do you grow from here? What next? What next can anyone expect from Atmana?
sure, sure. So we are just scratching the surface till date,
Yeah.
right? So Blocker X is still adult content blocker. That's
Yeah.
where most of the users are coming from, right?
Yeah.
So we have recently launched these four new categories: uh,
Mm.
blocking of gambling websites and apps,
Mm.
gaming websites and apps, social media,
Mm.
and ads, right?
Mm.
So users seem to be liking them, but it's still very early, right?
Yeah.
Uh, so we plan to expand our offerings and grow users on all these four
Mm.
categories. So that is
Yeah.
one thing. Second thing is we've launched a Chrome extension called Cremana, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is we were always building from the consumer. I mean, like we are building for everyone.
Mm.
With Cremana, it is mostly on the side of the person who is working, like a working professional, right?
Sure.
So Cremana, the goal is to help people to stay fit when they're working
Yeah.
on their laptop, right?
Yeah.
So it basically gives prompts after every few hours to do
Mm.
like very simple 1 minute exercises, like
Yeah.
neck exercise, back exercise, eye exercise, things like this. Very small, but
Yeah.
they actually matter because we see a
Correct.
lot of IT professionals having backache problems,
Lifestyle
having,
issues.
having yeah, lot of such issues because they are sitting in front of their laptop all the time, right? Just a simple thing, just a simple 1 or 2 minute thing like this with
Yeah.
can
Mm.
actually change a lot, can reduce their fatigue, can reduce the
Yeah.
all these body aches, right? So that's what we are trying to do with Cremana. Cremana is just the first iteration. We'll be building more to help people who are working from home to stay fit
Sure.
and productive.
Nice. Actually, I'm looking forward to that. Let me, connect with you offline on this.
Sure, sure.
Uh,
I mean, you can install our Chrome extension and let us know
sure.
your feedback.
One thing is, when anyone looking to join a startup, it's always the founding team, right? I want to know Tejas's philosophy generally in life, Tejas's philosophy for, working with his team, or how big is the team actually? I want to know that also, right?
So,
And generally your philosophy.
sure, sure. So,
Yeah.
firstly about the team, right? So, we have a lot of interns and employees. So, everyone put
Mhm.
together is, including myself, is 20 people right now.
Nice.
So, in terms of the team and the philosophy in general, basically, my philosophy is always that solving problems that no one else is solving, right?
Yeah.
And giving in our 100%.
Yeah.
So that is my core philosophy, because I think that that way we can create a change in this world, right?
Sure.
Because if there's already competition, the problem will anyway get solved, right?
Mhm.
So the thing that kind of moves us as humans, as a species, forward are when people bet on things, that are like that are not solved, or that are not
Yeah.
considered important by other people, right? So
Yeah.
that's what is the core thing. We all believe that we are like kind of a bit on the crazy side to try
Yeah.
something new, something unproven, right? So those are the kind of people that I really like to have on my team,
Mhm.
right? These are all people who take that risk, who take that chance, who want
Yeah.
to do something,
Yeah. Different.
uh,
Yeah.
something different, something that they are passionate about, right?
Sure.
So that's the thing. Most of our team is youngsters
Nice.
who are like really curious, and I think the single most trait that I see in them is ambition, right?
Nice.
That is
Yeah.
kind of the way for me to filter as well. So
Hmm.
uh, we really like people who are ambitious, who want to do something big in life, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we look for more than the degrees, or the smartness and things like
Yeah.
that, okay? uh, because this is what will keep them growing, and keep them growing at multiple levels of the company. It's a
Yeah.
win-win. Like they'll
Yeah.
grow, they'll benefit, and as a company keeps growing, we
Yeah.
need people to step up and take on more responsibilities. So it's
Sure.
like a great win-win to have such ambitious people.
Nice. Very curious. Like, if you were not doing Atmana, if you're not a founder, what would you be doing?
Right. I mean, there's two two possibilities. So I'll tell you the serious thing and the fun thing, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So the serious thing, probably I would have joined as a software developer, software engineer somewhere, because I always
Mm.
felt that that was a area I was lacking, and
Yeah.
I would enjoy coding, but I
Hmm.
never did it as a full-time job. Right?
Yeah.
But probably move from product to a software engineer and spend some time there. Right?
Sure.
So that was one possibility. Other possibility was actually like a passion that I had since my college, which was to become a stand-up comedian. Right.
Oh, really? Wow.
So probably I would have tried doing that.
Interesting. Maybe, who knows, that could become a side gig. Keep at it. Who knows?
Yeah,
Uh, I know you read a lot, Tejas. Like, I know you post a lot in terms of you're doing this whole startup terms, or you know the terms that are generally used in startups. I want to know from you what books, what podcasts, or knowledge that people should, imbibe, and if you have any recommendations there for people who listen in.
sure. Got it.
Mm.
So I'll talk about basically from the startup point of view.
Yeah.
I have some experience there, looking at
Mm.
various kinds of content, right?
Sure.
The thing that I still think is like the Bible for startups is
Mm.
Zero to One by Peter
Mm.
Thiel, right?
Yeah. Correct.
That's
Yeah.
a great book for any person who is thinking of starting up, or who's
Yeah.
working in a startup, or even a product person in a bigger company can still benefit from it, right?
Yeah.
So because a lot of product person's role is about,
Mm.
I think prioritization is more important than execution,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
I may take a very mediocre problem and solve it
Mm.
really well, but that may
Yeah.
not move the numbers, right? So it's
Mm.
important to pick the right problem, prioritize the right feature, right problem to take up,
Yeah.
right? So that's where I think this power law comes in. Like a lot of it is spoken about in
Mm.
the book, which kind of
Yeah.
also helps with prioritization, right? Which problem
Yeah.
to solve, and which problem will actually have that power law dynamic to it, right?
Mm.
Anyway, so I think 0 to 1 is a great book. Then there is this person called Shreyas Doshi. he's a
Yes.
he's a
Amazing
product
guy.
guy. Yeah,
Yeah.
and he puts out a lot of very interesting content. I think it's
Yeah.
super helpful for any product guy who is just
Agreed. Yeah.
starting on. Anyone in
Yeah.
my team who is working on product, I suggest them to follow him
Good.
on LinkedIn and
Correct.
Twitter, right?
Yeah.
And there is one interesting book called Hooked by Neer Ayal, right?
Mm.
So this talks about how products get their users hooked,
Mm.
so that they keep using the product, they keep coming
Yeah.
back to it.
How do you make it a habit? Yeah. Mm.
Yes, yes,
Mm.
that's a very good read.
Yeah.
Predictably Irrational. There is one more. This is on the psychology side. It's
Sure.
about how people make decisions. Why is it
Right.
irrational, right? And how it is predictably irrational, right?
Mm.
Great book by Dan Ariely,
I'm
right?
going to look up these last two books. I have not read them. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's like
Mm.
fantastic read. And Hard Thing About Hard Things. This is another
Yes.
book
Mm.
which is mainly about startups and what are the
Yes.
difficult things
Mm.
to do and how to do them, right? Yeah, I think these are all some really
Mm.
good sources. One thing I would just want to highlight is that I think rather than giving the exact names, one thing I want to kind of suggest to all the
Mm.
people is that it's important to follow people who are like 2 3 steps ahead of you,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So
Mm.
it's like I can always listen to Steve Jobs and think of how he used to prioritize things at Apple, right?
Yeah.
But that's not relevant to me because whatever he speaks about was at the time when Apple was really big and all of that, right?
Mm. Mm.
So decisions that someone at a big company will do versus someone who is just starting out and he's just building the first version of the product will be way different,
Very
right?
different.
So it may be good for motivation and things like that to listen to some
Yes.
like
Mm.
some serial entrepreneur who's already unicorn and things like that, like Zeroda or something like that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's good. It's good to listen to them. I'm not saying you shouldn't. It's good for inspiration and general motivation. But in terms of specific tactics, specific day-to-day tactical things, day-to-day strategic things that you have to
Mm.
kind of to help you with that, I would suggest just look at people who are just 2 3 steps ahead of you. If you're just thinking of starting, look at someone who has just started and maybe raised seed round of funding. If
Yep.
you're at the seed round of funding, look at someone who has just closed their Series A,
Yeah.
something like that. If you're just starting on product management, look at someone who's been maybe a product manager for the last 3 4 years, or maybe now is a
Yeah.
senior product manager, right?
Yeah.
Things like this, I think, will be more practical, more relatable to you than a bit generic kind of advice.
Sure. I think that's fair advice. I think you should also build your own thesis in terms of how you want to try things out also, right?
Definitely, definitely, yes.
Yeah. So Tejas, I want to know beyond work, what is Tejas like passionate about? I've never really, you know, asked you this in the past, but what does Tejas do beyond work?
Right, right, right. I mean, I'm a I'm a bit of a boring person, so
Mm.
I just actually I'm an introvert.
Okay.
Because of the startup, I'm actually speaking to people and all this because
Mm.
it's part of my job.
Nice.
But otherwise, I'm a very introverted person. I just stay by myself.
Mm.
One of the passions I have since the last 5 years is things to do with crypto and Bitcoin and all of that. So
Nice. Mm.
I'm really fascinated by this technology and what's happening. So I keep following it. I keep looking at various
Mm.
things, right? And also investment is another area that I'm interested in,
Sure.
right? So I spend a lot of time on these two areas.
Nice. I think again an interesting topic to grab a beer of. But now you're in Dubai, it's very hard to grab that beer.
We can do the virtual beer session.
Okay, whenever I'm in Dubai or whenever you're here.
Yes, yes. I mean, we can connect virtually anytime.
Any decisions of the past that you want to course correct if you had an opportunity to? Oh yeah, just no regrets at all.
So when I always look back at things, right?
Mm.
Whenever I made a mistake, I also learned a lot,
Yeah.
right? So if I hadn't made the mistake, I wouldn't have had that experience, or I wouldn't have
Mm.
learned that important lesson, right?
Yeah.
So I think whatever I've reached till now is because
Mm.
of both things: the things
Yeah.
that I did correctly and things that I, did
Mm.
that I did mistakes with, right?
Yeah.
So because of that, I wouldn't want to change anything. So it's
Very good. Mm.
I've got a lot of value in my life because of a lot of mistakes as well.
Sure. They just, I think all of us are born in this planet to leave some legacy or impact, whatever it may be, right? What is that you want to leave this world with over the course of duration that you're on this planet? Like, what is that? Have you ever thought about what legacy you want to leave behind?
That's a, that's a kind of a deep question.
Yeah, it's a very deep question.
I mean, my main thing is to just have fun and do interesting things at the moment, right?
Yeah.
But there is always one thing that I want to be remembered as, right? Which is like,
Mm.
I consider myself to be really fortunate if I'm remembered as a king of cash flows or king of business
Mm.
models, right?
Mm.
So business models and how to monetize something is something that I'm passionate about, right?
Mm.
So hopefully that is something I get remembered by.
I really hope that it happens for you. Like, let's leave that impression. Yeah. I think, in the interest of time, before we end this session, one quote that you want to leave all of us with and make us remember something that's beautiful to, take away from this session.
Sure, sure,
Mm.
sure. I mean, I would just say that our time is limited, right?
Mm.
So I would just encourage everyone to like solve problems that no one else is solving, right?
Yeah.
So instead of solving something that already 10 different people are competing on, find
Mm.
your own path, find your own thing that is unique to you, that is that you're passionate about, right? Because each of us has our own innate interests and strengths and weaknesses. So I think it's important to focus on our own uniqueness and
Yeah.
play into our strengths, play into our interests, and solve something that no one else has solved. That's what I want to say.
Amazing. Amazing. Tejas, first, again, thank you so much for your time. I know it's a Sunday and you've taken time off to do this session and again reconnect with me, especially. You know, loved our conversation. Wish you all the best. I hope you leave your legacy for years to come. uh, wish you very well on Atmana. Let me know how we can help, and if I hope people out there will listen and be interested in this space too.
Awesome, awesome. Thanks so much, Yuti, for having me on this series, and thanks for your wishes. And we'll stay in touch.
Great, great. Thanks, Tejas.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Yuti.